colleagues, and I see her around networking and talking. So she's frankly a model for some of you who are starting to learn from her. So try to catch her outside of the talk and learn from her some secrets. So Mahsa's talk is about a data science case study for event recommendation. Anyone attends events? How do you get your recommendations? Think a little bit about it and think if they were accurate or not accurate when you get recommendations from an event. I know I get from Facebook, I get from Eventbrite and other event things, and I think she will share with you a lot of learnings.
Thank you, Dr. Adamabari, for your kind words, and thank you everyone for joining me today for this presentation. Today I'm going to share a pipeline of a data science case study for event recommendation with you. And we're going to have fun today, and we're going to learn something, hopefully. And please let me know if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, and any kind of recommendation. So, we're going to start with an introduction about recommender system, and then we're going to talk about the proposed data science pipeline, and then we will move to experiments, and we're going to discuss the results, and at the end we're going to conclude what we learned today. So, what is a recommender system? I'm sure that you know what is a recommender system if you have watched any movies on Netflix, buy books on Amazon, or if you have an account on Facebook, you would have suggested friends or different posts. Or if you have an account on LinkedIn, you will receive some suggestions for jobs or for different seminars or academic posts. So this is what a recommender system does. That it tries to profile you as a user, understand what you like and what you dislike, and based on that, and based on your history, it tries to suggest you items which can be movies, books, I don't know, dresses, I don't know, like an event. So any item, it's gonna recommend you that item based on your interest and based on your profile. Recommender system, they're gonna help both users and providers to communicate to each other and understand each other better. And at the same time, it helps users to understand themselves a bit better, actually, because sometimes you know that you like some type of books or movies or events, but you just can't find it, and after a system would recommend it to you, you say like, okay, I always wanted to go to that event, I always wanted to read that book, or what an awesome movie, I really enjoyed it. So basically it helps you to understand your interests better as well. There are different types of recommender system. There is content-based and collaborative filtering ones. So I'm going to say an example for each of them. For example, let's say that I have an account on Netflix and I'm watching a movie, and I have been watching movies with, I don't know, with Emma Stone, let's say, and it seems that I have rated the movies with Emma Stone high ratings. And after a while, when La La Land has been released, it's gonna say, okay, it has the same actors that you love, and here it is, go and watch it. And we say, hey, thank you for that. So this is content-based recommender system that it tries to profile me and find similar content to what I have been using that item before. And about collaborating filtering is that, let's say that this is me and a friend of mine, and we both have an account on Netflix, and both of us, we like same type of movies, and both of us we like Emma Stone, okay? And then she's gonna watch La La Land, and she's gonna provide rating of 5. And now the system would say, okay, so this user is similar to Mahsa, and both of them, they like Emma Stone, and her friend she's already liked La La Land. Now let's suggest it to Mahsa because she's gonna probably like it. So this is collaborating filtering, that basically collaborate between users and try to understand your profile and recommend you the items that you like. each of these systems has their own advantages and disadvantages. So that's why we're having another category that tries to combine these two type of recommender system and come up with a better and powerful system. In addition to the items that we already talked, as we know that there are lots of social activities and events out there. And it's part of our lives. And it's very important to answer some questions about, okay, when is that event, who is going to that event, what is even that social activity, and where is it? So these type of questions that we are trying to answer here is based on event recommender system. So basically by using that kind of system, we're trying to answer that question and understand a user's interest and profiling that. But it is very hard to recommend general events that people may interest because events is different from items. And also there are tons of factors that affect users' decision. And it's very hard when it comes to an event. For example, there are different relationships between people that are going on. If you want to go to a movie, you probably go to with your friends and you don't care who's coming to that movie. It could be anyone. But for an event, it's different. So who is coming to that event? Who's organizing that? Is it my friend? Is it my friend? Are my friends coming too? Is my friend an organizer? So there are different factors that affect my decision to go into that event. And also, there is another level of challenge here because, for example, for movies, you would declare your interest based on ratings from 1 to, for example, 5 or 10. But for example, consider Facebook events recommendation. If you see an event, if you like it, you're going to click uninterested. If you really, really like it, you're going to click uninterested. If you really, 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 really like it, still, you're going to click one time uninterested. It's not that you double click uninterested to show how you love that event. So basically, the system cannot understand how much you hate or like that event. And there is one important feature about events. So, for example, let me tell you an example from a movie. When a movie is released, it's gonna be out there forever. It's not like that you can watch it tons of times. If I watch that movie, still it can be used for other users. But event is not like that. Event is one time only item. There is an event right now. If you come here, that would be great. But if you don't come, it's gone. You cannot even recommend the same event to other users because the event is gone. It's over. So it is a very special feature about events that it makes it very real, very challenging to deal with it because it's a new item every single time. Of course, we have weekly, like monthly, and annually events. That's okay. But most of the events, they are one time only. And if they are annually, they may change. The name may change, the title, or the other features. So what I'm trying to say that here we are facing a huge network that needs complex semantic interpretation for analysis. It's a very hard word to pronounce, but I did it. So, and here is another reason that why event recommendation system is challenging. I explained it before, but it seems that we already know what's going on, so we can prepare ourselves for that. But that's not true because in a real life scenario, it gets even more complex and it gets really hard to deal with it because there are tons of factors that affecting that kind of situation, not only for recommender system, but also from other maybe algorithms to dealing with these type of items. For example, there we have different user demographic information, we have temporal information, we have geographical information, we have missing data. So please go and fill all of the fields in your account because these kind of systems, they need your information such as like age, I don't know, locations. So don't leave any of those fields blank, please. And also, as I mentioned, there are complex online and offline social relationships, and it's not enough to have only one user information, because these type of items, they need your friends or your network information as well to predict accurately if you're going to be interested in a movie or in an event or not. For example, for suggesting a movie, if your friends like that movie, it's good. You're going to go and watch all together. But for events, it's important to know if your friends are interested in that event or not. And we're going to talk about it later to show these challenges. So, due to all of those previous slides, here we want to present, design, and develop an event recommendation framework which predicts what events users will be interested in. And to do so, we're gonna design and develop a fuzzy approximate reasoning framework for recommending events. And this kind of recommender system is based on certain information such as user demographic information, interest history, behavior of people in their network, time of the events, and of course the location and events description. And we are one of the first initiatives to recommend general events to real users at a large scale, the data set that we use, and I'm going to talk about it later. And more importantly, we are combining different types of information and features such as social, temporal, contextual, factors, geographical, in a very systematic way, not just throw them in a box and check it and extract features. And we're gonna analyze the impact of each of these features in our on our data set and on our model. And finally, we're having an interpretable event recommendation system that helps users, consumers, and providers to understand why that model works like this and why this is the result, and basically understand what's going on and why they have been recommended that item or event or that movie. So it helps people to understand it better. Now let's move to the data science framework. So the data description, before that I want you to know that first Faiza, my friend, and she's a PhD candidate from Multimedia Lab, we started that competition together, and we used Kaggle dataset, and it was a competition on Kaggle. So the dataset that I'm using here, it's provided by Kaggle, that it was collected over a 2-year period, and also it's a data from an app. So I'm just trying to say that we didn't use any outsourced data sets, and the only data set that we use is that one, and it's a real world data set. So here we have 5 different data sets, and then we try to combine them, and for each pair of user and events, we have a label as interested or not interested. So basically we know if a user is interested in an event or not. So as we can see here, we have 26% of interested labels and 3% of not interested, and about 70% of those people, they didn't provide any information. So we didn't know if they are interested in that event or not. And as you can see here, we had about 38,000 users and also about 1 million events. Well, I didn't even say that loud, but it's a huge number of events, and it can prove that over 2 years, this is the number of events, and it's a huge amount for items. So that's why it's even challenging to recommend it. And next year, all of these events would be probably gone, and they're going to replace with new events. So this is my favorite part, that basically we're trying to have a closer look to a data and understand what exactly going on behind that. and discover some story. And basically what we're trying to do here is understand and confirm the assumptions that we have for our data set or for the model that we are trying to build. And it's very important to not just assuming something and some facts and confirming based on our data. So this is one of the important steps that we are following here. So there are certain type of features in our data sets. The features that I'm using here, some of them is from the data set, some of them we extracted them, and we're trying to analyze the impact of them to see if they were true features and what was the reason behind extracting those features. Okay, so here let's have a look on the user's age. As we can see here, or as I can see, probably you can't here. So most of the users, they are from these two bars, and they are from 16 to 26 years old. So it shows that the age of our main users. And here, as we can see, most of the users, they are male for this data set. And here is one of an interesting chart that it shows the events here sorted based on their date and also the event frequency over there. So these are some of the dates that they have more events on that particular date. And as you can see, most of them, they are around Halloween. So they're around Halloween, there are more events going on out there. And it makes sense because that's true. We have Christmas, we have like New Year, or we have Thanksgiving in winter, for example. But most of them, they are family-based, so you don't create an event when you want to invite your family probably and post it on an application. So as you can see, around Halloween, there are more parties out or more like costume parties going on, and that's why there are about, for example, for this one, about 150 events going on. But does it mean that if we have this number of events, does it mean that the people are going to go to that events? We want to investigate that assumption, and we can answer that question as yes. As we can see here, this is popularity of the events. So basically it shows how many of users they've gone to that event, and again, they are around Halloween. So Halloween is a fun time of year, so people creating more events, they're gonna organizing more events, and there are more people to go and attend those events and enjoying their time. There is another assumption that we wanted to investigate is that the number of events during weekdays and the number of events during weekends. So as you can see, we have more events during weekdays, and that makes sense because we have 5 days for weekdays. But comparing that for weekends, there is only 2 days. As you can see, in general, after you normalizing the numbers, you would have more events during weekends, which makes sense. Of course, there are more events going on. And as another assumption, we wanted to investigate the effect of location of the event and users. So we have locations information for users and locations information of an event. And we just took the difference of these two locations. And then we have popularity of those events, user event popularity, and this is the difference between locations. And as we can see here, people tend to go to more closer events. Of course, they want to go to their own city's events rather than going to another state, and that makes sense. And also, we did the same thing with the time of events and the time that the user responded, that if he's interested in that event or not. And again, as you can see here, the users are sure about the plan for next week or in 2 weeks, but they don't know what's going on like next month or even next year. So they provide more responses if the event is closer because I know what's my plan for weekend. So if I see an event and I'm free, I'm gonna click on interested and go to that event. Here we are investigating personal connections to an event. For example, what is effect of my friends in that event? For example, are my friends invited to that event? And here we see that, okay, this is 0 and this is 1. So 1 means that my friend is invited, okay? And here is a tiny line, but I'm gonna explain it. So as we can see that most of the users, their friends are not invited, okay, from that form. But here we have all of these tiny bars as blue, which is interested. So it means that if my friends are invited to, I'm gonna go, no matter what. I'm gonna go with my friends, and no matter what. But here, we're not sure. I may go, I may not go, or we cannot conclude anything. Same thing happen here. So this one is invited, which means that I'm gonna check at my, for example, Facebook event to see, okay, if my friend is invited to. And here, if I know that my friends are going, like one of my friends, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of them, I'm definitely gonna go because the whole color is blue, which will shows interested. So it means that if any of my friends are invited, I'm gonna go and have fun. How about if there's an event that my friend organized it? So if my friend organized it, I'm gonna go to that event. And there's another question that it says, okay, am I even invited to that event? I see, so I'm gonna scroll and see all of the events. But if I am invited to an event, there are more chances to go to that event. So basically, for this particular data set, if the users are invited to that event, they click on interested. If they are not, we don't know. So here we talked about the data set, this type of different features that we were trying to extract. Like we had the information of, for example, the date of time, but we extracted if it's weekend or not, or this kind of information. So basically here, we extracted 3 levels of features. One is user level features, which is if my friends are invited, or if my friends are interested to go to that event, or if the event creator is my friend. And the next level is events level feature. It says if it's on weekends, or how popular is that event, or other information about description of the event. And we have user event level feature, for example, the difference between the locations of user and event, and also the time. So these are the features that we extracted, and we're going to work on it. After extracting the features, we gonna facing other challenges for this framework. One of them is that we have, as you remember, we had about 70% of not knowing the labels. We didn't know if the user is interested to an event or not. So we didn't go to extract this information from other resources because we didn't know any information about the users or events, so we couldn't do anything about it. So we decided to remove it. And also, after removing that, we would have unbalanced data for interested and not interested. It's imbalance. To make it balanced, what we did is that we used smooth to make those data sets, those class instances balanced. Another challenge is that we have missing values. And of course, in real world scenario, there are missing labels and missing values. For example, here for birth year and for user location and for event location, we have missing values. So we tried to use other data sets that we were provided to fill this information, but it wasn't helpful. So we decided to keep the missing values to show that our model is general enough to handle a real world scenario. So finally, here is the feature set that we talked. In addition to what I showed, we used age and gender, which was provided for each user. And also we had a description of each event. It was provided by as a bag of words, 100 most frequent words. We didn't know what are the words. It was encrypted, so we decided to select top 5 of most informative words to just use it instead of 100. Now let's move to the methodology. So the problem here is that we have a user, an event, and we want to predict if he's interested or not interested in that event. So we formulate the recommendation system as a classification. So basically for a pair of user and event, we predict the label for interested or not interested. To do so, we propose a personalized fuzzy event recommendation system. The reason that we use fuzzy classifier is that we wanted interpretability. Okay, I need to focus and pronounce that word. It's a tricky one. And I'll explain it with those rules after that to show an example of why we use fuzzy. As a part of our fuzzy classifier, we had a membership function generation and rule learning and fuzzy classification, which I'm going to talk about it in just a few slides. So this is our whole pipeline. So basically we have our data set, and then after cleaning the data set and extracting the features, we divide it to 3 different sets. And we use training set for generating the membership function, and also we use validation set and training set for rule learning. And after that, we're gonna feed it to a test set. We feed it to fuzzy classification to predict labels for the test set. As our fuzzy classifier, we use adaptive narrow fuzzy classifier, which consists of input membership function classification, declassification, normalization, and output layers. And here is the algorithm that we use. So as I mentioned, we have training set, validation set, and testing set. And first step is that we want to generate those membership functions for our fuzzy classifier. So to do so, what we did is that we have 2 labels here. For each set of labels, we cluster the items, the instances inside each cluster to 5 clusters. And for each inside each cluster, we extracted center and the variance of the input, the points inside each cluster as parameters for our Gaussian membership function. We use that loop for, which means that we use it for both of those classes, interested and not interested, and we updated membership functions. And using these membership functions, we initialize our adaptive narrow fuzzy classifier, and then we use validation set to update the parameters for our classifier. And finally, after enough iteration, we have our adaptive narrow fuzzy classifier, and we predict the labels for the test set. Now let's move to the experiments and discussion. So, as I mentioned that we have these 3 sets that we're going to use for our pipeline, and this is an example of fuzzy rule generated by the classifier in only one form. We use 10-fold cross validation for our model, and here this is the output, which is that we have 2 classes. For each classes, we did 5 class clusters, so that's why we have 10 rules. And these are our features that we talked about. And this red line here, it shows that, for example, this is one of a pair of user and event, and it shows which rule has been fired, and after that, we're gonna get the conclusion, okay, what is the final label for that? So, this is confusing. And of course, we can go and interpret that with using if-then rules and write it down and discuss it, right? But what if we have a nice way to create a story out of this pretty picture? So let's move here. Here, this is one of the rules for a pair For example, it says that if the time difference is low and if the significant is false and if the user age is young and blah, 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 then the label is interested. Now we get this and we convert it to a nice story that is understandable for both users and providers. So I'm gonna read it. It's a big day in winter, and a very young male gets an invitation for a popular event in which a few of his friends are interested. The event is close to his place, and it takes place in a few hours. So he would be interested to go to that event. So we used all of the features here, and we just converted to a nice way and more understandable to explain why we recommend that event to that user. So this is the explanation of the whole framework. And here is another example. For example, this one, the time difference is low and count of invited friends is very low, user age is young, and I don't know, gender is female, and then the label is not interested. And here's another story. It is one of the big days in winter. So here we mentioned two features. It's a big day and it's in winter. A young lady finds an event happening in her neighborhood. Although the event takes place in a few hours, there are only a few users who showed interest in it, none of which are her friends. So she will not be tempted to go either. So it means that for this pair of user and event, the classification label is not interested. And we can show it to providers and users to show, okay, why we didn't recommend you that event. Cool, right? If it's not cool, you need to come and talk to me. I'm going to convince you. Yes?
So does it, I kind of came in a little late, but for the explanation, does it only do a sort of reduction of specific things that would be emphasized about the event and why they would like it or don't like it?
So basically, we have a set of features, right? That they are used in that slide here. These are the features, and we convert this to an if-then rule. But we use all of these features in a nice story that is more understandable. That's all. So we use all of the information, everything.
Why these first two sentences are same features, same characteristic, but sentences are different? How is it possible that you generate different sentences?
Oh, okay, so it's not generated by a system, this stuff. This part, it's not generated by a system. It's generated by us. No, so the thing is that if we can have a system to convert this to a linguistic story, that would be great. But so far we have this, and we just want to show that if an event is recommended to a user, a provider can explain and show, okay, you're gonna buy my application. I'm gonna prove to you that this application works, and here is that one, which I make my staff to generate these things, each of them.
So this is manually generated.
Yes, yes. Only the lower part.
Yeah.
These two.
Yeah, you can do that with the template. I mean, that's just.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know, but at this time, I said at
But
this.
Yeah,
it
yeah, at
works
this time.
for us to do it, but it's that's simply template generation.
Yeah.
I actually reworded some of the things after we do it.
Thank you
Just
for
because
that.
it sounds better. My English is little bit better.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so now let's move to the more machine learning part of our algorithm to provide more metrics why our algorithm is better than others. So this is our proposed method, and we use same features but just replace the classifier as KNN and KS3, SVM and naive base. And as you can see, our accuracy is better than the rest of that. And because these two are close, we did p-value to a statistical test to prove that our approach outperforms other approaches as well. And here, so for the missing values, we decided to keep missing values, right? So for our So we use the complete test set, and also we just wanted to remove the missing values to see, okay, what's going on and how would be the results. So we have two types of test sets here, a complete one which includes the missing values, and the other one we remove that. And again, we can see that in all of the measures, our algorithm, which is the blue one, it outperforms other approaches, as you can see. And as a final investigation, again, we wanted to analyze impact of missing values. So we were adding more missing values to our test set, but with percentage. So we started with no missing values here, and this is our approach. And by adding missing values to 40%, as we can see, still our approach was able to holding up and fight, and compared to other approaches as well. So, for conclusion, we presented a case study for a data science pipeline to analyze events data and recommend relevant events to users. And we have conducted extensive data analysis and exploration to gain a better understanding from the data. And we proposed a complete data science pipeline that illustrated the importance of feature engineering and also the superior performance of fuzzy approximate reasoning compared to other baselines such as SVM, KNN, and naive Bayes without sacrificing interpretability. This time I said it good. Okay. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have some questions. I have one question, if
Yeah,
you don't
sure.
mind, I'll ask her one. Did you consider that the user may have two locations, home and work? Or does anyone consider this? Sometimes
Yeah.
events are planned close to work or close to residential area.
Yes, that's one of the other challenges for recommender systems. The dataset that we were provided by, it just mentioned location and latitude, longitude, and it didn't mention that if it's home or work. But that's
Because
why
I think for the
this
future,
is
people
important.
should start to look at this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sorry, that's my question. Any other questions?
Yes.
Or you recommended any good?
This system or me?
I guess you.
Yeah.
You had another question?
Yes.
Just one recommendation, like if I were you, I would preferably make for the missing values at the very beginning
Mm-hmm.
a statistical analysis, give the mean
Okay.
and standard deviation,
Okay.
and try to get like a predictive model,
Okay.
like a regression curve or something like that,
Mhm.
and predict those missing values and then make my analysis.
Okay.
That's what I
Yeah, that would be really interesting to do that.
Yeah.
For the training phase, we didn't consider any missing values. So our training phase, it's we don't have any missing values. But definitely it's a good approach to analyze the effect much better. Thank you for that.
Other questions? Yeah, here one.
What is a fuzzy model exactly?
Okay, good question.
You need a tutorial on that.
Yeah, no, sorry that I didn't mention that. So fuzzy model is, for example, for a classifier, you want to predict if a user is interested to an event or not, okay? And it's only 0 and 1, okay? But for fuzzy classifier, you can define a range. So basically it's fuzzy, it's not strict, that either it goes or not. So you can say that to what degree that that person is interested. For example, that picture that I showed as features here. For example, here, so this is the time difference, okay? So this one shows the degree of what is the difference of time. It's not like exact value for that feature. Or for example, for example, for age, if you want to do, you have to have different beans. For example, I don't know, 0 to 10 years old, 10 to, I don't know, 20, and you have to have these beans to be able to work with that. But for example, for fuzzy, you don't have to do it because it's it's not a strict value, and that line can just change and get the exact value of that line. So what I'm just trying to say is that for fuzzy systems, you don't have to work with exact numbers, and it gives you the freedom of play with a range. either for inputs or outputs.
More questions? Yeah.
So when you were testing the missing value, how do you measure the accuracy?
So for the missing values, okay, so missing values is from the features, not the labels. So the ones that they have missing in labels, we removed that, which was about 70%.
Other questions? Oh, I see one more there.
Yes.
How is like close determined? Like location very close. Like
It was in miles, I guess. So and it was about 100 miles. Is it asking? Are you asking about the chart?
like you just like with the if you just said if location very close.
Okay.
Like,
So this is one of the points of being fuzzy, that it says low. It doesn't say the exact number. So it says that the difference of location, the distance is close. So it doesn't mention how close, what in miles or anything like that. And we want this. We want this for our fuzziness that we're looking for. But if you're looking for an exact value, you can use other classifiers.
I had maybe one question until I get another request.
Okay.
The number of events seemed very large compared to the number of users.
Yes, because
How does this affect the learning in a sense?
so for our classifier, it's like that we have a pair of user events. So our instances is pair of user event. It's not only user or event. But this is a challenge in general for recommender system, event recommendation, because there are a huge number
So
of.
I noticed in the data there is a
Yes.
little bit of imbalance, more events.
Yeah, but
much
that's
more events.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But other questions? Oh, okay, one more.
Yes.
So, is there any information about the users population, which like, is it in US or worldwide? How does this information affect the
Yes, that's a very good question, because the bias of collecting data is very important, and it affects the machine learning or any kind of framework. So for that one, we don't know, because for competitions, they are not allowed to announce anything about the app or the person that organizing that competition. They just say that this is an app, and this is an event recommendation app, and we have this number of users and events, nothing more. But that's an important factor.
I think we can stop here. Oh, Doctor, you have a question or a comment, Dr. Nasrawi?
So I have a question. How can you use this to make a social impact?
So in general or only for specific events? So in general, you can use that event recommendation for like Facebook or Eventbrite, this stuff. But if it's if you're looking for targeting a certain type of event or a certain type of group, we can definitely use it for specific social activities. Like for example, we can use it, for example, for school, we're gonna have a different one to recommend events for seminars or academic events and this type of stuff. Or if it's like something going on about like movies or about like a specific type of group, we can definitely make it more customized for that type of social activities.
Maybe I can reword her question. I'll reword yours in a slightly different way. Can you use your system to help planners of social impact plan the date and time and location of events? The other way around. You know?
Yes, so, okay, let me think. So you can use this type of information to understand what is users' behavior and how they react based on analyzing the data set and even the results of this framework on real-world data, on real-world users, to understand what motivates people to go to an event. If they want friends to be there. So if I'm organizing an event, I'm gonna invite, for example, you and all of your friends to make you come to my event. So we can use this type of factors to have planning better events.
Yeah, I mean that's basically in the rule. That's just reading the rule back.
Yes.
What I was referring to is I just wanted to mention that this kind of event recommendation system is very, very interesting right now. People who are involved in political activism, environmental activism, and so on, these kind of models are exactly what they're after. So that's some of
good. That's why I also asked to give it to the event planners. It goes both ways. So,
Yeah.
well, I guess I don't see any hands. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
I hope to see you all next Friday. I mean, it's still a surprise, but we'll be